What's happening, guys? Today's another day on the channel, and what we got for the 180, they're already kind of like on it, but I got some new radiator hoses. So Z1 Motorsports took forever, but they're here. Silicone radiator hoses this time, so that we don't have any blowouts like we did at OSW. And we're gonna go ahead and install these fully now. I just put them on to make sure that they fit right and everything like that. This top one up here, I'm gonna slice like a little bit off it so that it's a little bit easier to get on and off. But yeah, guys, that's about it for this. We're going to do something else in this video for the 182. Maybe, I don't know, maybe this will be the start of like a drift video or something like that. But we're gonna just put these coolant hoses on, and then we're gonna see how it runs and make sure it runs the right way it's supposed to. Oh, maybe we could do this as a dyno video. We'll put it together and then we'll put it on the dyno and see what we can do with that. So let's get these coolant hoses actually on now. Okay, so car runs pretty rough right now. Got a pretty rough idle. It hasn't started in a long time, so that could be a problem. It is on E85, and cars don't really like it if you let them sit for too long without starting it on E85. The coolant is in the car. We're trying to bleed the system right now. We got the lower radiator hose on, the upper radiator hose on. SR20s are cool because they got a bleeder port up here on the top, pretty much right where my finger is. That little bleeder port right there. And we're gonna go ahead and see if there's any other problems with this car now. I haven't really driven it since the event, which has been probably about 2 weeks now. And I really just want to get the car back on the road and see what it feels like and drive it around again. So let's hope that this works and there's no holes in a radiator or anything like that, and it just goes back to being normal. It's starting to smooth out with the idle, and yeah, it takes a little bit of time for this thing to warm up. It's under further inspection of the car. I might have blown out the water pump itself. It's starting to spray a bunch of fluid everywhere down on the bottom down there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to brake clean all this stuff off, and I'm going to let it sit overnight and just see if the water pump leaks a little bit. If it does, then oil pump, water pump, timing chain, new head gasket, pretty much just redo the whole thing all over again, and then see what we can do for some other stuff. The turbo's not sounding too great down there. It sounds like the bearing in it is probably blown out, so I should probably check on that too. But yeah, guys, let's just see if it leaks tomorrow, and we'll just keep working on it. So let's park the car for tonight. So since the 180 has the water leak-ish, we don't really know where it's going to be coming from. I'm going to pressure test it with a pressure tester right here and see if it's coming out of the water pump, if it's coming out of the radiator, if there's any leaks anywhere. I'm going to probably put it on there for like 10 minutes, pump it up, and see how long, see if any drain comes out, and just try to figure that out really quick. So guys, I pumped it up to about 9 psi, and as you can see, it's already dropping. You can kind of just see it while it's right here, and it's coming out pretty profusely right down there on the side of the water pump. When I had it up to 9 psi, it was coming out more. You can see the drips coming out down there, and it's around this bottom bolt right there. So we might get away with just kind of tightening it up and seeing if that works to hold the water in, or the water pump is actually blown and I need a new gasket and all that kind of stuff. But let's go ahead and see if it can be tightened up real quick. As it looks like I broke everything that I didn't think was actually going to break on this car. So I didn't think the water pump was going to break, and I didn't think the radiator was going to break, but I think the radiator has a hole in it now, and I'm pretty sure the water pump gasket itself is completely gone. So in those two situations, I have to now get a new radiator, and I have to get a water pump with a new water pump gasket. I'm going to get a water pump because it seems like that water pump is, the bearing in it is kind of going out, and it's making a squeaking sound now, and I don't want that. So realistically, guys, we're just going to go ahead and go through this whole thing. We're going to take the water pump off, see what's going on with that. We're going to take the turbo inlet off, and I'm going to see if there's any shaft play on the turbo. And yeah, guys, we're just going to start digging into this thing and start getting all new parts for it again. And it's turning into like another build again. So half of the stuff in it can be saved, like the ARP head studs, the ARP main studs, the rocker retainers. The head is fine, so none of that stuff needs to be done. I really would like to do the bottom end and do pistons and rods and stuff like that, but I kind of want to just get it back to where it needs to be. I don't really want a whole lot of power in this motor. I really want like 3 to 350, and that's like a sweet spot for these bottom ends, and it's perfectly okay to keep that power level at this thing and kind of really get on it, especially if you have an aftermarket ECU like what I have. I have a Haltech. So let's go ahead and just dig into this thing and see what we got, guys. So after more inspection of the turbo, guys, the turbo is not blown up. It does not have any shaft play. It's got the normal amount of up and down and the normal amount of in and out. So the turbo's still good on this. I still would like to put a bigger turbo on this because I want more power, but that is a-okay with me. We could just try to see if we can get more power out of this turbo as is. But right here you could see, as you can see, there's nothing wrong with the turbo inside in there. All the fins are intact and everything, so this turbo's still good. So we're gonna keep using this for as long as we can and until something happens to it or if we get a bigger one. So that's good with me there. Now let's go ahead and drain the coolant back out of this thing. We're gonna check the radiator. We're gonna take the whole radiator completely out and just check that to see if there's any leaks on the bottom of it now. So looking at the radiator here, the radiator doesn't look like it's actually leaking anywhere down here on the bottom. I thought it might be leaking right around here where I accidentally jacked the whole car up from right here. This dent has always been in it since I've owned the radiator, and I've never had any problems from that. I did have a problem from the little petcock right here one time. The seal went bad in it, but that's a new one in there, so that's not leaking. I do think it's about time for a new radiator though, so I think we're just gonna go ahead and get a new radiator and just put these fans back onto that radiator and just have all that stuff set and done. I like the Coil Rad. That's a good brand, so I think I'm just gonna go ahead and stick with that and get another Coil Rad. So I guess let's go ahead and take off the alternator belt and take off the water pump and check out how that's doing, and make sure that there's no foul play over there and see if the block isn't cracked or anything like that, and then we can start putting all this back together and testing some stuff out. Maybe I can even get away with putting a little RTV on that water pump a little bit until I get all the parts in, so that I can at least have a running driving car and I can move it around and take it to a car meet or something like that. So let's go ahead and take the water pump stuff off right now. So under inspection of the water pump here now, the water pump doesn't actually seem bad. It just seems like it was making some noise, maybe not enough lubrication in the bearing. Maybe the bearing is bad, but it's only doing it when the car is running, because spinning it by hand, I can't hear anything that's wrong with it. But we're going to go ahead and get a new water pump anyways. We're gonna get a new oil pump. We're gonna get all the stuff that we need to fix this thing here. And what we're gonna do in the meantime is, it looks like the gasket just blew out. So I'm just going to go ahead and clean all this RTV off of this thing and then put new RTV on and then put the water pump back on for the time being and see if it holds. Hopefully it does, so that we can actually move the car around and just be able to move it without having any coolant leak out or anything like that, and so that the engine doesn't get super hot on me. We are going to try to order everything this week for this thing and just get it so that we can make more power and that the car will not have any sort of problem whatsoever. So let's go ahead, clean all this RTV off, get this stuff back together, and see if there's any coolant leaks anymore. So a trick that I learned from the Jedi Masters, passed down through the ages, is that if you're doing a water pump or probably any sort of pump in the front of the motor, jack up the car so that all the water that's in the block travels to the back, so that you end up like this. So the front of the 180 is all jacked up. Now there's no water coming out the front right there. You can kind of see it right in there, but it's not at the edge there. If you leave it at the edge, sometimes it'll come down and it'll get on your silicone and stuff right there, and then it won't seal properly. So let's go ahead, put our water pump back on there with some brand new RTV, and then let's go ahead, cinch it down, let it sit like this all jacked up until I put the rest of the car back together. We're gonna put the radiator back in, we're gonna tighten everything up, we're gonna pressure test it one more time, and if there's any more leaks, then obviously we know we can't do anything about this, and we need to wait until we can get some new parts, guys. So let's go ahead and put all this back together now. Okay, so everything is back together here, and I got the pressure tester. I just put a little bit of coolant in this thing just so that it has something to push around and so that I could see if there's any water coming out anywhere or anything like that. So let's go ahead and pressurize this whole system and see if it drains down pretty quickly. So as you can hear, it's still leaking out somewhere around the water pump, and the petcock on the bottom of the radiator is leaking as well. It's got like a little puddle right here. So we need a couple more parts. We're gonna have to put a new water pump in this thing like I thought, and that's okay. We're testing things out here, seeing if anything worked, and it didn't. So let's go ahead and wrap this thing up here, guys. More parts. Like I said, we're gonna try to order some stuff this week and get it in so that we can start putting this thing back together, take it all apart, put it back together, and just get it running the right way and see what we can do for it, guys. But if you guys liked the video, don't forget to subscribe, hit that like button, comment, share, do all the good stuff. If you're not notified, get notified, stay notified, guys. Lots more content to come. Got some more Miata stuff, some 180 stuff, some more tractor stuff. Trying to keep it like up and down through the videos with that, not trying to overload you guys with like too much Miata content or tractor stuff. So let's go ahead, and that's about it. I'll see you guys in the next one. Later.